Hi there, my friend. Welcome to tonight's sleep story. My name is Jack, and I'm truly honored to be the voice keeping you company as you drift off to sleep. So get comfortable, let your body relax, and just allow my words to guide you into a calm, peaceful night of rest. The night didn't announce itself, it simply arrived. Snow fell slowly, like it had nowhere else to be. The kind of snow that doesn't rush, doesn't make noise, just drifts. The moon hung low over the town, full and calm, casting a soft silver light over rooftops and quiet streets. In a small house near the edge of the woods, a girl named Emma sat by the window. She wasn't thinking about much. She didn't need to. Her thoughts had already started to slow, like everything else around her. On the floor beside her, her dog Buddy slept curled into a warm, familiar shape. His breathing was deep, steady, comforting. Every now and then his paw twitched slightly, as if he were chasing something gentle in a dream. Emma watched the moon through the glass. She had always liked how it never hurried, never demanded attention. It just stayed. The room felt safe, warm, still, and without realizing it, Emma's breathing began to match Buddy's. Slow in, slow out. Outside, Christmas lights glowed softly along the street. Not bright, not flashy, just enough. A wreath hung on a nearby door, moving slightly in the cold air. Somewhere far away, a church bell marked the hour. Quietly, respectfully, then faded back into silence. Emma stood and slipped on her coat, moving carefully, as if the night itself were resting. Buddy lifted his head, eyes half open, already understanding. They stepped outside together. The cold air felt clean, fresh, the kind that clears your chest when you breathe it in. Snow crunched gently under their feet as they walked with no destination in mind. The moon followed them, casting long, soft shadows across the ground. Buddy stayed close, his presence steady, unchanging. Emma felt lighter with every step. No pressure, no plans, nothing to solve. Just walking, just breathing. They moved toward the trees at the edge of town, where the lights grew fewer and the silence grew deeper. The forest welcomed them without sound. Snow rested on branches. The air smelled faintly of pine. The world felt older here, and kinder. Emma stopped for a moment and looked up. The moon shone through the branches, broken into gentle pieces of light. She felt watched over, not in a frightening way, but in a quiet, reassuring one. Buddy sat beside her, his warmth spreading through the cold. Time seemed to stretch. Seconds became unimportant. Minutes lost their meaning. Everything slowed, including thoughts, including breathing. And as they continued walking slowly beneath the moon, the snow kept falling. Soft, steady. Buddy stayed close, loyal, calm. The night held them gently, asking nothing, expecting nothing. And without realizing it, the story itself began to soften, repeating like a slow breath, like footsteps in snow, like the moon returning again and again to the same quiet sky. They didn't hurry. There was no reason to. The path curved gently, the way familiar paths do when you walk them many times before. Snow softened every edge, every sound. Even the night felt padded, like it was moving quietly on purpose. Buddy's leash hung loose in Emma's hand. He didn't pull. He never needed to. He knew this walk as well as she did, maybe better. She could hear his breathing, slow, even, the kind of breathing that makes you slow down without trying. Above them, the moon stayed right where it was, not following exactly, just being there, constant, reliable. A few houses passed by, curtains drawn, lights dimmed. Somewhere inside, people slept deeply, unaware of how peaceful the night had become. Emma felt that peace settle into her shoulders, then her arms, then all the way down to her feet. Each step pressed it in a little more. Snowflakes landed in her hair and melted without notice. The air filled her lungs gently. Cold, but kind. Clean. Buddy paused for a moment, sniffed the snow, then continued on, satisfied. His tail moved once. Slow, easy, They reached a small open space where the trees pulled back just enough to let the moonlight spill fully onto the ground. The snow there glowed faintly, like it remembered daylight. Emma stopped again, not because she planned to. Her body just knew this was a good place to stand. She rested her hand on Buddy's back. Warm, solid, real. Nothing needed to be said. The night didn't ask for words. And so they stayed there for a moment longer, breathing, standing, letting the quiet do what it always does best. Carry everything gently towards sleep. The path curved gently, almost without notice. Emma followed it the way you follow a familiar thought, not trying to reach anywhere, just letting it happen. Buddy's collar made the softest sound when he moved, a quiet little rhythm that blended with the night. She barely noticed it anymore. It felt like part of the silence. Snow kept falling, not heavier, not lighter, just the same calm drift, as if the night had found its perfect pace and decided to keep it. The houses grew fewer, their lights dimmer, until there were only a couple of warm windows behind them, glowing like distant memories. Ahead, the trees opened into a small clearing. Moonlight pooled there, bright but gentle, resting on the snow like a thin blanket of silver. Emma slowed, then stopped. Buddy sat beside her without being asked, his body warm against her leg. They stood together for a moment, breathing in the cold, clean air. It smelled like winter, like pine, like something simple and honest. Emma looked up again. The moon seemed closer here, bigger somehow, as if the sky had leaned down just a little. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. Some thoughts are lighter when they stay unspoken, floating quietly, the way snowflakes do. Buddy shifted, then settled again, his breathing slow and even. Emma felt her shoulders relax, felt the space behind her eyes soften. Time moved differently now. Each second stretched, then melted gently into the next. Nothing asked for her attention. Nothing needed fixing. The night was doing all the work. After a while, it didn't really matter how long. Emma started walking again, back along the path. Same pace, same calm. The moon followed, never rushing, never falling behind. And with every step, the world seemed to grow quieter, softer, as if it were slowly preparing itself for sleep, just like her. The path curved gently, almost without being noticed. Emma didn't guide it. She simply followed where it already wanted to go. Buddy's leash hung loose in her hand, not because she wasn't paying attention, but because he stayed close on his own. The snow beneath them felt softer now, like it remembered their steps and welcomed them back each time. The moon drifted behind a thin veil of clouds, never disappearing, just becoming quieter. Emma breathed in slowly. Cold air, clean air, the kind that feels good deep in your chest. Buddy exhaled beside her, a long, calm breath, warm against the winter night. Somewhere nearby, a small creek moved under the ice, its sound muted and gentle, like a whisper meant only for the dark. They paused without deciding to. Emma rested her hand on Buddy's back, feeling the steady rise and fall beneath her palm. Everything felt steady. Nothing needed changing. The houses were farther away now, their Christmas lights only faint colors in the distance, soft reds and golds, barely glowing. The night didn't feel empty. It felt full, full of quiet, full of stillness, full of the kind of peace that doesn't ask questions. The moon slipped free from the clouds again, casting a calm silver path across the snow. Emma followed it with her eyes, then let her gaze soften. Buddy shifted slightly, settling into a slower rhythm, as if the night itself were guiding him. They began walking again, not toward anywhere new, just forward. Each step felt lighter than the last. Breathing slowed, shoulders relaxed. Thoughts thinned out until there was only feeling. Cold air on skin, soft snow underfoot, warm presence beside her, and the moon, always there, keeping pace, never rushing, never leaving. The night continued, smooth and unbroken, like a long, gentle breath that didn't need to end. They kept moving without thinking about it. The path curved gently, almost on its own, as if it always known where they were meant to go. Emma's breath stayed slow, easy, The kind of breathing that happens when nothing is wrong. Buddy's paws pressed into the snow with a soft, steady rhythm. Not loud, not hurried, just there. The moon drifted a little higher now, its light stretching across the ground, turning the snow into something smooth and endless. Houses faded behind them. Trees stood quietly ahead. The town felt farther away, but never gone. Emma rested her hand lightly on Buddy's back as they walked. She could feel his warmth through her glove. Real, comforting. That simple touch made the night feel complete. Somewhere nearby, a breeze moved through the branches, carrying the faint scent of pine and winter air. No words were needed. The night understood silence. They slowed near a small clearing, where the snow lay untouched, soft and perfect. Emma stopped. Buddy stopped with her. They stood there together, listening to nothing at all. And in that nothing, everything felt calm. The moon watched patiently, as it always did. It didn't ask them to move. It didn't ask them to stay. It simply stayed with them. Snow continued to fall, flake by flake, each one taking its time. Emma's shoulders softened even more. Her thoughts became lighter, then fewer, then barely there. Buddy shifted slightly and sat, his breath deep and slow. Emma leaned down and rested beside him, feeling the cold snow beneath her and the warmth beside her. The contrast felt gentle, balanced, perfect. Time stretched again, quietly, without edges. And as the night carried on, the moon kept glowing. Buddy kept breathing. Snow kept falling. And the world stayed just like this. Soft, safe, unhurried. You don't need to follow them anymore. You can simply rest here too, beneath the same moon, in the same calm night, letting everything slow and slow and slow. They kept moving slowly, without thinking about where the path led. The snow seemed softer now, or maybe it was just the way the night was holding everything together. Buddy's step stayed even, a quiet rhythm beside her, like a heartbeat you don't notice until it comforts you. Emma's hands rested deep in her coat pockets. Her shoulders dropped a little more with every breath. Above them, the moon drifted behind a thin veil of clouds, never disappearing, just dimming enough to feel gentle. The houses grew farther apart. Lights became fewer. Silence became deeper. But it wasn't lonely. It was the kind of quiet that feels like being tucked in. They reached a small open space where the trees pulled back, revealing a stretch of untouched snow. Emma stopped there for a moment. She didn't check the time. She didn't need to. Buddy sat down beside her without being asked, his warmth pressing lightly against her leg. She rested a hand on his head, feeling the familiar softness beneath her fingers. His breathing stayed slow, easy, untroubled. The night seemed to breathe with him. Cold air moved in and out of her lungs, clean and steady, carrying the faint scent of pine and winter. Somewhere far off, a single Christmas light blinked quietly in a window, as if even was getting sleepy. Emma looked up once more. The moon was there again, clear now, bright enough to paint soft shadows across the snow. She felt that quiet sense of being watched over, not by anything loud or demanding, just by the night itself. Nothing needed to happen next. So they stayed there for a while, standing, breathing, resting in the stillness. And when they began walking again, it felt slower than before, as if the world itself had decided to move gently. Snow continued to fall, softly, patiently. Buddy stayed close. The moon stayed near. And the night went on smooth and unbroken, carrying everything forward at its own calm pace. They kept moving at the same easy pace. No need to hurry. No reason to stop. The path curved gently, almost without notice, as if it had always known where they wanted to go. Snow rested deeper here, untouched, softening every sound until the world felt wrapped in cotton. Buddy's paws pressed quiet prints into the ground, each one steady, familiar. Emma followed them without thinking. Her breath made small clouds in the cold air, appearing, then fading, just like thoughts. Above the trees, the moon drifted slowly, never leaving them behind. Its light spilled through the branches, painting silver lines across the snow. Emma felt her shoulders drop a little more. Her hands loosened inside her pockets. Everything she'd been holding on to began to feel unnecessary. They reached a small clearing where the forest opened up just enough to see the sky. Emma stopped. Buddy sat beside her, close enough that their warmth touched. They stood there quietly, listening to nothing in particular. No wind, no voices, just the soft presence of night. Somewhere far off, a single Christmas light blinked on and off, steady and patient, like it had all night. Emma smiled without realizing it. She looked down at Buddy and rested her hand on his head. His fur was warm, real, comforting. He leaned into her touch, eyes half closed, completely at ease. Time stretched again, slow and wide. And when they started walking once more, it felt like they had never stopped. Step after step, breath after breath, the same calm following them forward. The night stayed gentle, the moon stayed close, and everything continued, just as softly as before. The path curved gently, the way paths do when they don't need to hurry. Emma didn't notice when the houses faded behind them. She only noticed how quiet her thoughts had become. Buddy's leash stayed loose in her hand. He walked the way he always did on calm nights, unrushed, trusting the night to take care of them. The moon moved with them, sliding slowly across the sky, never getting ahead, never falling behind. Snow gathered on the tops of fences, on the branches of trees, on the soft shoulders of the world. Emma paused near a small open field. The snow there was untouched, smooth and unbroken, like the night had just been made. She stood still. Buddy stopped too. They listened. There was nothing to hear, and that felt perfect. Her breath rose in a faint cloud, then disappeared. Buddy sat down, close enough that she could feel his warmth through her coat. She rested her hand on his head, slowly, without thinking. His fur was warm, familiar, real, the kind of comfort that doesn't need words. Above them, the moon softened the edges of everything. Even time felt rounded, less sharp. Emma closed her eyes for a moment, just one breath, then another. When she opened them again, nothing had changed, and that was the best part. They turned back the same way they came, their footsteps falling into the old ones, snow gently closing behind them. The town waited quietly, lights still glowing, windows still warm. Christmas felt less like a day and more like a feeling now, steady, kind, unmoving. As they walked, Emma felt herself growing heavier in a gentle way, like the night was slowly lowering her toward rest. Buddy's steps stayed even. His breathing stayed slow. The moon stayed where it was, doing what it always did best, watching, holding, letting the night be enough. And the walk continued, soft and unbroken, like a long, peaceful breath. The path curved gently, almost without notice. Emma didn't think about where it led. She never needed to. Buddy's leash stayed loose in her hand. He walked the way he always did, unhurried, calm, trusting the night. Snow gathered quietly on his fur, melting slowly from his warmth. The moon drifted with them, never rushing ahead, never falling behind. It felt like the kind of night that had always existed, as if Christmas had simply borrowed it for a while. A few houses passed by, porch lights dimmed, windows dark and peaceful. Somewhere inside, families slept deeply, wrapped in blankets, dreaming soft dreams. Emma felt that same heaviness in her eyelids now, not tired, just ready to let go. They slowed near a small open field, the snow untouched, smooth as quiet lake. Emma stopped. Buddy stopped too. They stood there together, breathing in the cold air, breathing out warmth. The moonlight spread across the field, gentle and silver, like it was meant only for them. Emma rested her hand on Buddy's head. His ears were warm beneath her fingers. Solid, real. Everything she needed was already there. No words, no thoughts, just the simple feeling of being safe. The night seemed to lean closer, wrapping around them, softening the edges of the world. Snow continued to fall, slow, steady, patient, and somewhere between one breath and the next, the walk began to feel like a dream, one that didn't need to end. They turned back without deciding to, feet finding the path on their own. the town welcoming them back in silence, step by step, breath by breath, the same calm returning again, and again, and again. They didn't hurry. There was no reason to. The path curved gently, the way familiar paths do, as if it already knew their footsteps. Snow continued to fall, light and patient, settling on Buddy's back, melting slowly into his fur. Emma noticed it for a moment, then let the thought drift away. The night took care of things like that. The moon stayed right where it was, not moving much at all, just watching quietly from above the trees. It felt steady, reliable, the kind of presence that doesn't ask anything from you. Buddy paused for a second, sniffing the cold air, then kept walking. His leash hung loose in Emma's hand. There was trust there, always had been. Their footsteps softened as the snow grew deeper, each step slower than the last. Breathing in, breathing out. The town felt far away now, even though it wasn't. Christmas lights still glowed faintly behind them, blurred by distance and falling snow, like a memory that didn't need attention. Ahead, the trees opened just enough to reveal a small clearing. Moonlight poured into it, spreading across untouched snow, smooth and quiet. Emma stopped again, not on purpose, just because her body felt like stopping. Buddy sat beside her, close and warm, his shoulder gently against her leg. They stood there together. No talking, no thinking, just the soft sound of the night breathing. The cold didn't feel cold anymore. It felt clean, comforting. And as they stayed there beneath the moon, the world seemed to slow even further. Snow falling, soft, steady, breath after breath, easy, natural, the same calm returning again, and again, and again. And the night continued to hold them, quietly, gently, without ever needing to end. The path curved gently, not sharply, not suddenly, just enough to feel like the night was guiding them somewhere kind. Emma didn't try to guess where they were going. She didn't need to. Buddy's leash stayed loose in her hand, more a reminder than a guide. He walked with the quiet confidence of someone who knew this night was safe. Their footsteps softened as the snow grew deeper. Each step made a sound like a slow sigh, as if the ground itself were breathing with them. The moon drifted between thin clouds, never hiding, just dimming slightly, then returning again. Emma noticed how even the moon seemed unhurried. She pulled her coat a little tighter, feeling warm settle around her shoulders, the kind that comes from calm rather than heat. Buddy paused for a moment, lifting his nose to the air. Not alert, just curious. Emma stopped too. They stood there together, listening. No cars, no voices, only the faint whisper of wind through branches and the steady rhythm of shared breathing. After a moment, Buddy continued walking, and Emma followed without thinking. The trees opened into a small clearing, blanketed in untouched snow. In the center stood a wooden bench, its surface dusted white, looking as though it had been waiting all evening. Emma brushed the snow away and sat down slowly. Buddy circled once, then curled up at her feet, his body warm and familiar against the cold ground. Emma rested her hands on her knees and looked up. The moon felt closer here, not larger, just nearer. Its light spread evenly across the clearing, softening every edge, leaving nothing sharp. Emma's breathing slowed even more, in and out. Buddy's chest rose and fell beside her, steady and sure. The night didn't expect anything from them. It didn't rush them. It simply stayed. Snow continued to fall, each flake finding its place, each one quiet and complete. Time loosened its grip. Moments stretched, then drifted. And as Emma sat there beneath the moon, with her dog resting peacefully at her feet, the world felt gently balanced, exactly as it was meant to be. And the night continued, softly, slowly, without end. They kept moving, without thinking about where the path would lead. The snow felt softer now, as if it had learned their rhythm. Each step landed gently, then faded behind them. The dog walked a little closer, his shoulder brushing her leg now and then, not asking for attention, just sharing warmth. The girl slipped her hands into her coat pockets, feeling the quiet settle deeper inside her chest. Above them, the moon stayed exactly where it was, not following, not watching closely, just being there, the kind of presence that doesn't need words. A small breeze moved through the trees, carrying the faint scent of pine and cold air. It touched her face lightly, then passed on. Somewhere, a porch light turned off. Another house drifted fully into sleep. The town exhaled. They reached a stretch of road where the snow was untouched, smooth and unbroken, like the night had been waiting just for them. The dog paused for a moment, listening to something far away, then relaxed again. Everything was okay. The girl slowed her pace, and the night slowed with her, breathing in and out. The sound of her breath blended with the quiet, until it was hard to tell where one ended and the other began. Christmas felt present without needing to be seen. In the calm, in the stillness, in the gentle kindness of the night. The moonlight softened the edges of everything, turning the world into something dreamlike, something forgiving. They kept walking. No rush, no destination, just the steady comfort of now. Stretching on, and on, and on. They kept moving at the same easy pace. No rush, no reason to hurry. The snow beneath their boots sounded softer now, as if even the ground had decided to rest. Buddy's leash hung loose between them, barely moving, because he already knew where she was going. Or maybe they both knew they weren't really going anywhere at all. The moon stayed right where it was, floating quietly above the trees, casting that familiar silver light that never asked for attention. Emma pulled her coat a little tighter, not because she was cold, but because it felt comforting. Buddy walked close enough that his shoulder brushed her leg now and then, a gentle reminder that she wasn't alone. The town faded behind them without effort. Lights grew dimmer. Sounds grew fewer. Soon there was only the slow rhythm of walking and breathing. And the night, they reached a small open clearing where the snow lay untouched, smooth and soft, like it had been waiting. Emma stopped. Buddy stopped too. They stood there together, looking up at the moon as it reflected off the snow, making the whole world feel lighter, almost unreal. Emma let out a long, quiet breath. Buddy sat down, his tail curling neatly around his paws. Nothing needed to be said. Moments like this didn't ask questions. They didn't need answers. They just existed. After a while, they turned back, not because they were done, but because the night gently guided them. Their steps naturally slowed even more now, each one blending into the next. Thoughts drifted in and out, never staying long. Warm houses appeared again in the distance, windows glowing softly with Christmas light. Somewhere, someone had left a candle burning. Somewhere else, a tree sparkled quietly in a living room. But Emma and Buddy stayed in their own calm bubble, untouched, unbothered. The moon followed them all the way back, just as it always did, and as they walked, breathing stayed slow, steps stayed gentle, the night stayed kind. Everything continued exactly as it should, and there was nothing else to do but keep moving softly forward, and let sleep come whenever it was ready. They didn't hurry. There was no reason to. The path curved gently, almost without notice, and Emma followed it the same way her thoughts followed her breath. Slowly, without effort, Buddy's leash stayed loose in her hand. He knew where to walk. He always did. Snow gathered on the edges of the trail, soft and untouched, as if the night itself had just been laid out for them. The moon drifted higher now, still watching, still quiet. Emma felt the cold on her cheeks, but it wasn't sharp. It was the kind that makes you feel awake for just a moment, before making you sleepy again. Buddy paused, sniffed the air, then continued on, his steps steady and sure. Somewhere nearby, a house let out a thin ribbon of warm yellow light through its curtains. Inside, someone laughed softly. Then the sound faded, returning to stillness. Emma smiled without thinking. She liked knowing life was happening around her, even when she didn't need to be part of it. They reached a small open space where the trees pulled back, giving the moon room to shine fully. Snow sparkled faintly, as if the ground were breathing in light. Emma stopped there for a while. Buddy sat beside her, close enough that she could feel the gentle heat of him through her coat. She rested her hands in her pockets, letting her shoulders drop, letting the night hold the weight for her. Her breathing slowed again, in and out, the same rhythm as Buddy's, the same rhythm as the quiet town behind them, the same rhythm as the moon above. Nothing needed to change, nothing needed to end, and so they stayed there, just a little longer, wrapped in snowlight, wrapped in calm. As the night continued exactly the way a peaceful night should, they kept moving at the same easy pace. Not faster, not slower, just the way the night seemed to prefer. The path curved gently, leading them toward a small open space where the snow lay smooth and untouched. No footprints, no signs of hurry. Emma paused there for a moment. Buddy stopped too, as if he knew this was one of those quiet places meant for standing still. The moonlight spread across the snow like a soft sheet, glowing faintly, peacefully. Emma felt on her face, cool and calm. She let out a slow breath she didn't realize she'd been holding. Buddy sat beside her, close enough that his warmth traveled through her coat. She rested her hand on his back, feeling the rise and fall of his breathing. Steady, reliable, comforting. Nothing needed to be said. Somewhere beyond the trees, a distant house settled with a gentle creak. The sound didn't break the silence. It belonged to it. Snow continued to fall, one flake at a time, each one taking its own slow path downward. Emma's thoughts began to thin out, like clouds drifting away from the moon. No clear beginning, no clear end, just softness. Buddy lowered himself into the snow, curling slightly, completely at ease. Emma followed, sitting beside him, letting the cold press gently through her clothes. It felt grounding, real, safe. She looked up once more. The moon was still there, unchanged, patient. It didn't rush the night. It didn't rush her. And as she sat there, breathing slowly, feeling Buddy's warmth in the quiet of Christmas night, time loosened its grip. Moments stretched, then softened, and the night continued to hold them. Quietly, kindly, as if it had always planned to. The path curved gently, almost without asking them to follow. Emma didn't notice when the houses faded behind her. She only noticed how quiet everything felt. Not empty, just settled. Buddy's leash stayed loose in her hand. He didn't pull. He never did on nights like this. His steps made a soft, familiar rhythm in the snow, a sound she had known for years. A sound that meant everything was okay. The moon drifted with them, sliding between clouds that moved slowly, as if they were half asleep too. Emma breathed in the cold air. It felt clean in her lungs. It felt like starting over, without effort. They reached a small open field where the snow lay untouched. No footprints, no tracks, just smooth white ground glowing under the moonlight. She stopped there for a moment. Buddy sat down beside her, without being told. He leaned gently against her leg, warm and solid. Emma rested her hand on his head. His fur was soft, familiar, grounding. She didn't speak. She didn't need to. The night understood silence. Somewhere far away, a wind chime moved softly, one slow note fading into another. The sound drifted through the air, then disappeared. The moon watched quietly, like it always had. And in that stillness, Emma felt her thoughts begin to loosen, like snow slipping from a branch, falling without sound. She and Buddy stayed there a little longer, not waiting for anything, not thinking about time, just being. Eventually, they began walking again, slowly, naturally. The path seemed to appear right when they needed it, a narrow trail between snow-covered trees, their branches forming a soft arch overhead. Moonlight filtered through, breaking into gentle patterns on the ground. Emma's steps grew lighter. Buddy's breathing stayed calm and even. With every step, the world felt softer and quieter and more distant, like a dream that doesn't need a beginning or an end. And as they walked on beneath the moon, Christmas lights glowing faintly behind them, the night continued to hold them gently, unhurried, unchanging, exactly as it was meant to be. They didn't hurry. There was no reason to. The path curved gently, almost without Emma noticing, and soon the houses were behind them, their soft Christmas lights fading into a quiet glow. The snow felt deeper here, more untouched. Each step made a gentle sound, the kind that disappears as soon as it's made. Buddy walked a little closer now, his shoulder brushing lightly against Emma's leg, not asking for attention, just staying connected. She rested her hand on his back for a moment, warm, familiar, real. Above them, the moon stayed steady, moving slowly across the sky, as if it were walking too, keeping the same calm pace. The air felt different here, cooler, cleaner. Every breath filled her chest and then left quietly, taking any leftover tension with it. Emma stopped again, not because she needed to, but because stopping felt just as natural as walking. She listened. Nothing rushed toward her ears. No engines, no voices, only the soft whisper of snow falling and the slow, peaceful breathing of her dog. Buddy sat down beside her, content, unbothered, certain that everything was exactly how it should be. Emma looked up at the moon once more. It didn't shine brighter. It didn't change. It simply remained. And somehow, that was comforting. They stayed there for a while, or maybe only felt like a while. Time didn't matter anymore. Eventually, they began walking again, turning gently back toward the quiet town, their footsteps slow and easy. The night wrapped around them, soft and unbroken, like a story that didn't need an ending. And as they walked beneath the moon, with snow falling softly around them, everything continued to slow and soften and settle. The walk slowed even more, not because there was a reason to stop, but because the night itself seemed to breathe slower now. Snow continued to fall, each flake finding its place without effort. The moon stayed right where it was, steady, familiar, calm. Emma felt the warmth of Buddy beside her. His steps had grown softer, quieter, as if he already knew what came next. They reached a small open space, where the snow lay untouched and the moonlight rested gently on the ground. Emma paused. Buddy sat beside her, close enough to feel his warmth through the cold air. Neither of them felt the need to move. There was nothing to rush toward, nothing waiting behind them, just this quiet moment, the kind that doesn't ask for attention, the kind that simply exists. The walk. Emma took a slow breath in and let it go just as slowly. Buddy's breathing stayed deep and steady, a soft rhythm in the stillness. Above them, the moon remained unchanging, patient, kind. It had seen nights like this before, and it would see nights like this again. But for now, it simply watched. The snow kept falling. The air stayed calm. The world remained gentle. And the night continued. Soft, quiet, unending, just as sleep slowly does.